I think everything. It's probably a combination of the spiritual, intrinsic renewal that you get, the economic benefits, the recreational benefits. I think it's I don't know which one's maybe more important. It depends upon the day and even the hour. All those things are, it's the harmony. It's also exciting to see the natural world evolve, to see the trees grow, to see them renewed, to see it can be depressing too, to see trees die, see trees overbrowsed by deer, see disease, see drought, and so on and so forth. But it's an incredible experience to witness nature evolve around us. About 20 years ago, there was a couple of us that had the idea that a forestry co-op may be a good idea. We talked about it, and we both had a mutual friend who was a forester in Vermont, ironically, and forestry co-ops had already, let's say, had a foothold there. So we started discussing it, and then we formed a steering committee with the help of a fellow that got help from Lumberjack RC&D. And I think it's about 20 years ago. It was about 2000 when we formed the steering committee. I think our earlier vision was probably pretty grandiose in a sense that we had ideas about bringing people together to accomplish this and accomplish that, and combine small timber harvests and so on, and as it turned out, probably even maybe the majority of things that we had envisioned maybe turned out to be impractical. But the one thing that really drove me to stick with it has been the aspect of accomplishing some meaningful conservation. And we've had some of those opportunities since early on, and we've carried through with those. We've sort of evolved into this let's say trend of education has always been a valuable part of our work, but we also learned some time ago that you need tangible and visible successes to keep energized, and especially a core group of us on our board have been energized by the successes that we've had with conservation projects, and there's been nothing to compare to that. The one other thing that was really a tremendous driving force early on is that what's known now as the Wisconsin local lumber use law was a result of our efforts of Partners in Forestry, working initially with Senator Roger Bresky. And that's been law for over 10 years now, over 12 years now. So that was an incredible success as well. So it takes some tangible, important, and valuable successes that people can recognize and benefit from, I think, to keep any level of harmony with the structure of an organization as well, Anyone with an interest in our mission or an interest in forest conservation can certainly become a member of Partners in Forestry. That's a very complex question, because a lot of members do no more than hopefully pay their dues annually and receive a newsletter or any other benefits that we can throw their way, and hopefully they've been benefiting from this. But for any organization to be successful, we need more members and more people who are much more deeply involved. So I think it's that way with any issue in any organization. I've never had any grandiose ideas that every member was going to be involved, because a lot of people you seldom hear from, but that doesn't mean that they're not benefited by it as well. So that I think what's membership entail, that's up to the member. You know. Well, I think to reflect the cooperative spirit requires some level of cooperating, and there's been enough of us, I guess, if you will, that have been able, willing, and eager and passionate about cooperating to keep going, but why is it called Partners in Forestry? Because we're partners with a common goal, I guess, if you will. I think the name maybe reflects sort of an inclusive type of attitude, an attitude that would not dismiss somebody for having a viewpoint that was contrary to what somebody else has, or something like that. I think one of my earlier visions was maybe to find common ground between, and we've had a certain level of success with this, to find common ground between people that for decades have been called tree huggers, the people that haven't, let's say, wanted to cut a tree, wanted to manage timber, looked at all timber management as bad, and those people that were eager to harvest timber, but we tried to act as a middle ground, and through education and through experience and through demonstrations, and I think we've accomplished that to some degree, but overall, there's no question to me that besides our education and our outreach and so on, that are by far our greatest success has been to help some of the members with true, tangible, long-lasting, and often perpetual conservation issues. Like there's been several cases where I've actually been an agent, a representative for a landowner that wanted to sell his land for conservation, and help them accomplish that, or a conservation easement. And those are the things that have become probably the most meaningful to me. For an example, in 2014, with some assistance from the UW Center for Co-ops, we started what we simply called our peer program, where we were going to outreach and encourage some people that were sort of uninformed or negative about forest management, that maybe some level of management is not a bad idea. And there was one experience that turned out to be so positive that within 16 months, the 1,042 acre forest that's called the Upper Wisconsin River Legacy Forest, protecting a couple miles of the very early portion of the Wisconsin River, came to fruition because of that early outreach with that program. So I never discount the effort that we can put into something, and it often goes unheeded and often maybe pays no dividends, but there's many times when, how do we know that until many years have passed as well? So the old saying is that the seed never sees the flower. So and sometimes that there's a lot to be said for that, you know. The challenges of running the forestry cooperative itself are many. They're, you know, first off, the thing that I have to spell out from the beginning is that even though our cooperative is a for-profit cooperative in the eyes of the state of Wisconsin, there is nobody in our cooperative that has ever taken a salary or even a stipend for their day-to-day activities. That has, so we've basically volunteered our time, and when we get grant money and stuff, we can cover expenses and things like that. But it's all been for members or public benefit. So the challenges that I could see, at some point the aging process catches up with a person. You no longer are willing to function in the capacity you were. Who's going to carry it on? By the same token, the aging member, he passes away, and trying to keep his offspring interested in forest conservation, often it's good luck. You know, it's not an easy task. We lose members as fast through attrition as what we can gain them, and that's why we've sort of, I'm going to say for 10 years already, we've been more at a holding level than anything. You know, we'll do something good, establish the Upper Wisconsin River Legacy Forest, or Wildcat Falls Community Forest Project is nearing completion. We're a nonprofit that's one of our close partners and affiliates, common board members, common office space, is going to own a priceless 160-acre parcel in the UP called the Wildcat Falls Community Forest, with the help of the U.S. Forest Service, several conservation groups and foundations, and over 100 donors. And I mean, that's a wonderful and huge tangible event that I hope can sort of cement some long-term sustainability for the group as well. So the challenges are tremendous, along with the everyday challenges that are brought upon from nature, from everything from diseases to blowdowns to deer damage to invasive species, you name it. So the challenges are great, and you know, a really frustrating challenge is the fact that we're kind of in a time today where people form their own facts, and you could often be faced with the absolute worst ignorance that is so factual in some individual's mind and in their voice that they are absolutely convinced, and many times that is almost impossible to deal with. Modern day logging equipment is so big and so expensive to move that that aspect has been even exasperated since we first started. You know, back at the time when we first started, there was still some level of hand cutters out there that were looking for smaller. That's pretty much a thing of the past. I think to overcome the challenge, I would say the number one thing is going to be to find, locate, establish, and nurture a leader that has an attitude that I just won't give up. by far most proud of has been, and that's not to say that the local lumber use bill wasn't a huge accomplishment. I was passionate about that. My livelihood, as you can see from the buildings around us, was local use of wood. I was absolutely passionate about it. I was dedicated to it, and I was just overjoyed when it became successful. But there's no question that my greatest satisfaction, and the one thing that has kept me involved and kept me going, has been the success of some of our conservation efforts. Our efforts of helping some landowners that didn't trust their own offspring to take care of their land when they passed away, to help them get their lands in good hands, whether it be a public agency or with a conservation buyer or with a conservation easement, to do things like establish the Upper Wisconsin River Legacy Forest. We worked on a project up in Houghton County, Michigan, in the UP called the Pilgrim River Watershed Project, where we were part of just an absolute enviable partnership of conservation interests. It was a partnership that I couldn't imagine it being second to none to be tenacious at accomplishing a common goal. It was a 10-year effort, and when you work at something that long with that level of passion, to see it successful sort of cements it in your mind. If these successes were easy, they would be meaningless. And because these successes are often very difficult, they're often a real rocky road, they're often interrupted with setbacks and so forth, the fact that you can be successful in the end, that makes those all the more important. There's times when you start with the smallest baby steps to accomplish the biggest goal. And each step, collectively, they start adding up and they become meaningful. The overwhelming benefit of a cooperative is to collect the knowledge, experience, vision, and passion from a number of people and bring that together and use it to accent each person's strong points, and together the synergy and the synergistic effect created by these different opinions and these different levels of experience and these different levels of passion, they can really be a driving force to accomplish good things. That's the benefit. Often you'll find an individual with an excellent idea, but he doesn't have the drive or the stick with it. Often you'll find somebody with a stick with it attitude, doesn't want to give up, but maybe he'll be the first to admit that I don't know how to do it. So collectively, we help and we strengthen each other. That's the big advantage to a cooperative, and in my opinion, that truly defines the cooperative spirit.